Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge. Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2. Here. Gary Figgis, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invitation this morning will be delivered by our own Chaplain McGuffey.
Make that be, sir.
After the invitation, please remain standing for the pledges.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for this day. We thank you for an opportunity to assemble again. Lord, to take care of the business that you have before us this day. Lord, I ask for your blessings upon each and every one that's in the leadership position to carry this county into another level. Lord, we thank you for that. Lord, we thank you for having us here today in order to execute everything that needs to be done. Thank you for law enforcement across the nation, Lord. But Lord, right now, we pray for each and every one that will be traveling during these holiday times, that they might have a graceful travel. Father, a safe return. Our employees, Lord, and all the residents of Tarrant County and thereabout. And Lord, we pray that you'll continue to hold us in great regard. It's in Christ's name I pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Mr. Mayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. First, under the Administrator section, item A1, we have some additional information that we have given you electronically and also in your red folder this morning on that particular one. Also, members of the Court, on item number 5, we have an audience participation form as it relates to the contract with Life Gift Organ Donation Center. And so we're going to remove that from consent, and we'll take action on that once all the audience participation issues have been provided. Members of the Court, we can then go to Human Resources. I want to talk a little bit about item G2. This is the adoption of an online compliance training program for Tarrant County employees. We're not going to take action on that today. We're going to take action on that the next time we meet. And the reason that we're going to do that is that Jeanette Johnson has provided the court members with access to those training programs. And we would like for you all to take a look at those training programs, make sure you feel comfortable.
So are you withdrawing that item from the agenda?
Yes.
All right.
But,
thank you for that time.
Yes, but we will be taking it, and the only reason we're removing it is because we want to make sure that all of you have an opportunity to review that.
Sure.
Jeanette will be up here whenever during the Human Resources section, so if you'd like to have conversations about that, well, then that would be the appropriate time. Members of the Court, also under Public Health, which is item 9H1, there is a revised court communication. We had to add some signature lines as related to that particular grant application, so that's the revision as relates to that particular one. We have two items that are on purchasing also. That'd be item 9I9. We're going to ask that we hold that particular item, and we'll be bringing that back to you. And then also under purchasing, it'd be 9I22, this professional services agreement with integration toolkit training and consulting. We're going to remove that from the agenda. We have already taken action on that. And so that was just a slip up, and so we're going to simply remove that. Also, members of the court, want to remind you that we will not have court the next 2 Tuesdays, that our next court meeting will be December 14th at 10 o'clock here in the courtroom. And then finally, as we've done in the past, as relates to the coronavirus, as we get to the administrator section, we are going to be taking the briefing item by Mr. Tanasia up, and he will do his presentation at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular and special call meeting, regular meeting of November the 16th, special call meeting of November the 15th.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Fickus. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of resolutions of appreciation as well as a certificate of appreciation. The first resolution of appreciation is for Donna Larson. Come on down. I've been around here for a short 25 years. This family, okay, family stand up. All related people to this clan. Yeah, y'all stand. Third generation. So I'm going to read this. It says, whereas Donna Larson is a third generation county employee following her mother's service of more than 25 years, and her grandfather, J.W. Jim Borman, who served as judge and as the district clerk of Tarrant County. And whereas Donna started her career with Tarrant County as a part-time clerk at the age of 17 with the Tarrant County Adult Probation Department, known as the Community Supervision and Corrections Department. And whereas after graduating high school, Donna took a full-time position in Tarrant County Adult Probation while continuing her education pursuing a criminal justice degree. And whereas through hard work, education, and great success, Donna was promoted to the role of Director of the Domestic Relations Office Community Supervision Unit, overseeing the collection of millions of dollars in child support for the children in Tarrant County. And whereas during her service to Tarrant County, Donna married her high school sweetheart, Gary Larson, who is the former mayor of Haltom City, and raised two daughters. And whereas Donna Larson has served the citizens of Tarrant County in the highest tradition of public service and leaves a legacy as a Tarrant County employee who always maintained the highest standards. And whereas on December 31st, 2021, Donna will retire from Tarrant County, having faithfully served the citizens of Tarrant County for 44 years. Wow. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize Donna Larson for her years of exemplary and invaluable service to the citizens of Tarrant County, in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 23rd day of November 2021. I'll move its approval.
Second.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Now, is the fourth generation already started? Do we have the fourth generation?
Yeah, they're still kind of little.
Okay. So that fourth generation needs to get around here. We can't say enough about. This family is all over the county. And they go by many different names. So if you think you may not know who they are, you're probably talking to one of them. Thank you. So I guess we got to get a picture. So let me get this here. There's one flash. Are we having to wait for 2 flashes? We've heard a lot of them. Okay, I just want to be sure.
The slim angle, please.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please make me acknowledge.
I just want to say that Tarrant County is a great place to work. It's been very, it's done well for my family and for many generations, obviously. And I just would like to say to anybody out there that, you're just starting, and you're not really sure which direction you're going to go. Just hang in there. Take advantage of every opportunity that you get, because Tarrant County has lots of them. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is a certificate of appreciation for Jim Teague. Is Jim here? He's another one who has served for 17 years on the board for MHMR, and has been a tremendous public servant in that regard. I look at that particular board, as well as Child Protective Services and as well as JPS, as probably the 3 most critical boards that we have an opportunity to make appointments to. These appointments deal with and these boards deal with people's lives on a day-to-day basis at a time when things may not be going just right for the families that they're serving and that they're helping to get services to. Jim has done an outstanding job. I know Commissioner Johnson, he's your appointee, and has been for all those many years. We certainly appreciate his service. And on JD's behalf, I will read this. Presented to Jim Teague in appreciation for your dedication and leadership and service to the community as a member of the MHMR Board of Tarrant County Board of Trustees 2004 to 2021. Our sincere thanks accompany this expression of recognition and gratitude. And I'll move its approval.
Second.
Our motion is second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, and we'll get this to Jim again for his service on the MHMR. Susan, I know you're here, and Jim's service has been outstanding. Go ahead, sir.
His son will be replacing him shortly.
Okay, then.
I think we may have approved that last week, or maybe we're going to approve that this week.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Commissioners, do y'all have any announcements at this time?
I do. I've got 3 announcements. The first of which is an announcement and a request that I would like for us to adjourn court today in honor of David Chappell. Obviously, he recently passed. He was a friend to many, worked so hard over decades in the Fort Worth and Tarrant County community. So I'd like for us to adjourn in his honor.
You beat me to that one. Thank you.
Both of us. David and I grew up together in an organization called DMLA, and he and I were very active and were very good friends in that organization. And it was a big loss to read of his passing this last year.
Absolutely. And David had represented my family as an attorney for years and years and years. And I've known him since I was a kid. Outstanding citizen of Tarrant County.
Second is I want to recognize a special guest who's joined us here today. Her name is Yvonne Jima, and she is an intern with our office. She has such an impressive record of success for her short time in pursuing her goals. Yvonne and I met last year via a Zoom class for UTA on workforce preparation, and she came to America and to live in Arlington after being living in Ghana for 14 years. So she returned to the States and began high school at Arlington's ISD Seguin High School, and she's currently a senior at UTA. She's a major in public health and a minor in broadcast communications. Vinny, y'all should meet. She has been a member of 12 on-campus student organizations and has served in 5 leadership roles. She's currently the chairwoman for academic affairs in UTA student government. She aspires to be a number of things, including, actually, she is a small business owner. And works on her own Christian fashion brand. I just really thank Yvonne already for the contributions that she has made to UTA, Go Mavs, yes, and then also to our office, and I look forward to her interning with us through next year. So please join me in welcoming Yvonne. Now, for my final announcement. When I was elected on November 6th of 2018 and sworn into office on January 1st, 2019, as a Tarrant County Commissioner, I could not have imagined what lay in store for me or our community. History was made, being the first, the only, and the other, as I often say, the first African American to be elected to represent Precinct 2. The only woman serving on this court, and the third ever in its 100-plus year history, and one of the youngest to serve as well. I interviewed for the job for a year and a half. I spent countless hours talking to voters, just as many who didn't look or think like me as those who did. I received politically and racially motivated threats of violence for running. Still, I ran my race. An effective professional grassroots campaign of which had never been done in any recent county race. The voters hired me. I was grateful then for the opportunity, the honor, the responsibility to serve, and I am grateful now. Who knew that just over 1 year into my first term, a global pandemic, a global social justice movement, and a 100-year storm would befall our world and state, all within a year, and that these unimaginable events in time would coincide with a multi-year season of great personal loss for me. A season that tried my spirit, tested my will, and one that ultimately left me stronger and ready for even bigger fights. I understood the assignment. I was sent here to show up every day and to give my absolute best, not to make my name great, not to be the mouthpiece for an ideology or a puppet to any master. I was sent to serve the people, to show up and speak truths, even when bullied, even when disrespected, even while openly and behind closed doors enduring discrimination in various forms. And while I don't condone the actions of many of those who have so regularly and pridefully enacted such willful ignorance, immaturity, or hatred, I can acknowledge that through the pain, the work that you sent me here to do was reaffirmed. What I am doing is working and is effective. Otherwise, why would dissenters fight so hard against me and our work and work so hard to tear us down? So, for all of you who sent me here, who have been rooting me and our team on, we did it and we are doing it. We, you, me, our amazing and high-performing Precinct 2 team set a new standard of what to expect from your county commissioner. That transparency is more than a word. It's intentional action. That being inclusive isn't a catchphrase for the temporarily woke. It is a daily act of recognizing our differences and making room for them. For those in our county and beyond who are watching and wondering if you can do it, whatever your it is, whatever it may be, and for those who have grown weary of being the first, the only, and the other, You can do it. Opposition and haters will abound. Count it all joy, my friend. Do it anyway. Live it anyway. Life is not promised, and there are people in this world waiting on your gifts, your talents, and your experience to help them use theirs. To that end, the next stage of my purpose on this earth awaits me, and I am excited about the opportunity to make a global impact on issues affecting women. To do so, and this has been an extremely hard decision to come to, I will not be seeking re-election to continue serving as county commissioner. I know this decision will disappoint many, and for that, I regret causing such an effect. Please know that I will spend the next 404 days completing my first term with continued laser focus to bring to fruition the vision I have for Precinct 2. If you want to join me in ensuring equity and access in county government, this is your invitation. We certainly need more sojourners. And while I don't believe it's my place to tell you who should assume this role after my departure, I do have in mind the type of leader it will take to build upon what I have started. Someone who has a proven track record as a committed public servant and values similar to those that have guided me, and someone who will love the people and the work more than they do the title. I will share who I plan to endorse at the appropriate time. Of course, and with all due respect, it is ultimately up to the voters of Precinct 2 to make the decision. Until then, I remain all in to the very last day. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I be recognized?
Most certainly.
I want to say to my colleague that serving with you has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And while I am disappointed by the decision that you have made, you and I were friends long before we were colleagues.
Yes, we were.
And it would be a poor friend who would not support the life decisions of a friend. So although I am disappointed in your decision as my colleague, I could not be more supportive of you as a friend.
Thank you.
There is nothing that you could say or do that would diminish my love and respect for you as a person and as a friend. I look forward to the next 400 and whatever you said.
404.
404 days
It's going to be fast and furious.
of our service together because we've still got work to do.
We all have a lot
Together.
of work to do. That's right.
And I certainly wish you well on your next adventure in life. And I hope that you know that if there's ever anything you need from me, if there's ever any way that I can support you in your journey, I am there for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, and I do count it all joy.
Devin, I would just say I know that this is not an easy decision, and we do have 404 days left. This, I wish you the best in your next step or next chapter. I have enjoyed very much working with you this last 4 years, so 3 years, and will be 4. The court is obviously going to look very different January 1st of 2023. But I feel, as you said, I feel comfortable that the voters in this county will put the right folks here, and that we'll continue to move forward. So, again, I know how tough of a decision that had to be.
Thank you.
Devin, I want to thank you also. Everyone that I've been able to serve with and had that honor of serving with, I learned something from, and I take something away from that. And I appreciate what you have brought to this court. I wish you the best. You're a very, very talented individual, and you're going to do well in whatever you do.
Thank you.
And we want you to do well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Devin, good luck to you in the future.
Thank
Been a
you.
pleasure. Thanks.
Any other announcements, any other comments at this time? Okay, court members, you have before you our consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Oh, was that the right motion? Should I have done as amended, or is it fine?
It'll be all right.
Okay.
So, members of court, if we can now go.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving, the Larson clan and Chaplain Duffy. So you're the 4th generation that's supposed to be making a decision?
Yeah.
No pressure, I'm sure. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Members of court, we can now go, and we're going to go to the briefing item first, and we're going to ask Mr. Sneja to come forward and make his presentation.
Well, good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Morning.
Here with an update. So our COVID situation continues to flatline, which is partially good and partially worrisome because I like a one-way trend, and that's down. But this flatlining of cases and all the other indicators obviously seasonally worries me. We saw this last year around this time, and then holidays were pretty rough for us. Hospitalizations have technically flatlined, but they're higher than what we saw last year or last week. We were at 222, I think. We're at 230 this week in the hospital. That's 5.17% of the hospital capacity. Pediatric hospitalizations are at 4. They're just kind of hovering around that 4 or 5 number. And then trauma service area E, though, has seen a decline. I think we were at 800 and some change, and now we're at 749. So overall, for the entire North Texas Metroplex area, I think we're seeing a better picture for hospitalizations. Case trends still down overall, but as you can see over the last 2 or 3 weeks, if you look at the bar chart and follow the 7-day moving average, which is dotted on top of that, it's flatlined. What worries me is this measure of virus spread, the R0 that we've been looking at. For the last 2 weeks, it's been jumping higher, and we're above 1, so virus is accelerating in the community. So there's trouble beneath the surface. It's not always visible in all the numbers because they follow what happens. And then all these other charts that we look at, the COVID positivity rate is 6.12%. So technically we've flatlined after hitting about 5% or so. Interestingly, I looked at Texas data, and there's a sharp upturn. We were at a low of 5% a couple of weeks ago, and now we're at 7.8%. I think El Paso is starting to have a lot more cases again. So overall for the state, I mean, metro areas obviously lead, the case numbers and so forth, so El Paso is probably the lead at this point. There's some other smaller counties that have had a high level caseload, lots of cases happening, but I don't know that they really add that much to the state numbers because obviously we're a big state. The one on the right, bottom chart, the cases per 100,000, we're taking a turn up. I think we hit a low of 80 per 100,000. We're back to 91 per 100,000. Independently, the positivity rate and the case rate, they're both below the threshold set by the White House task force, so we're not in the red zone. We're still at substantial spread, so that's good news. But it's kind of a delicate balance at this point. National trends, we hadn't looked at that in a while. I wanted to kind of show that to you. We were in a nice decline, but the virus has caught, the Delta surge has hit all the way from New Mexico going sort of up into the Midwest. So I'll show you that chart here in a minute. But Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, all of these places have a lot of cases. So it kind of went northwest all the way to Seattle area and kind of back into the Plain States and the Midwest. And as you can see, all the deeper red colors. One thing I want to point out, take a look at New Mexico. I know early on in the pandemic they were hit hard. Right now they've got the twindemic situation going on. They've got high COVID case counts, and I think on the next chart I'll show you they have a high flu outbreak happening at the same time. Point of all of this is it can happen anywhere. We're no exception. Luckily, we're sort of in a low activity right now for Texas for the flu. Tarrant County is skirting the baseline data for what we typically see this time of the year. Reminder for everybody, even though there's COVID there, we still have other diseases that occur, including the flu. Get your flu shot. Now is the time. You might be a little late because we're heading right into the holiday week, but let's get it done because it really the activity picks up after Thanksgiving and typically peaks around Christmas. That's usually our first peak, and flu usually has a secondary peak in late February. So there's plenty of flu season to go around. If you haven't been vaccinated, now is the time. Get it done today. All right. Georgia also, I think, is having some issues, so we're just going to keep an eye out. There's been a few outbreaks of national attention. In Michigan, University of Michigan had a huge outbreak of 550 plus students of the flu, and that dispatched the CDC team because that was unusual. They wanted to see what's happening. There's been some news articles. I haven't really found any scientific data, but news articles have been saying that because of the global pandemic, a lot of people around the world were wearing masks. Last year we did our part on getting vaccinated for the flu because nothing else was there. The vaccine wasn't around for COVID. Seemingly there's less of one strain, the influenza B, I think it's called the Victoria strain. Remains to be seen if it comes back or something else replaces it. That's always the worry when things change in the picture for flu. So we'll see what this season brings or the next couple of years bring. And as you can see, Florida's lighting up, and that was one of the outbreaks that we had a few folks get impacted in Tarrant County, and they returned. They were college kids, just a couple, but
so is dark the lowest thing, and then you get lighter and lighter until you get to yellow, and then you get to orange, and then you get to red?
Yes, sir. The darker green is the lowest counts, and then the red is the highest. Yes, sir. Okay. Color shading.
And are you saying Victorian?
It's the influenza B Victoria strain.
Victoria strain. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. But again, this is more news driven, not necessarily. I mean, I tried asking our lab director. They haven't seen anything in scientific articles, so
Gotcha.
I'll just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Okay, so the message for the public, I think, is time for caution. We're heading into a holiday week. We're not overly worried because a lot of people have the vaccine. People have recovered. There's been a lot of folks who were ill and recovered. So we should have some immunity going into this holiday season. But that doesn't mean let your guard down and just don't worry about COVID. We need to continue to wear our masks, avoid large crowds. If you have family members that are not vaccinated, you got to be a little bit more careful. Entire families that are vaccinated, they can kind of relax and go back to having a normal Thanksgiving. But when you're in a mixed crowd of vaccinated and unvaccinated, you got to be a little bit more careful because things do happen when larger gatherings occur. Again, if you can avoid a large gathering, don't invite the entire clan, so to speak. That would be nice, but, it is the holiday season, so we
You want to
understand.
tell us which ones not to invite?
Those that are not vaccinated. That was easy for a public health guy. I'm just kidding. Okay. So the big news is booster doses were approved for Moderna and Pfizer for all adults last Friday. And that's great because before that, even though there was a lot of talk about boosters, technically it was supposed to be for folks who had underlying health conditions and so forth. So a lot of folks were hesitant. They're like, well, I'm healthy, I'm fine, I don't need a booster. Yes, you do, and now it's approved. So let's not wait. Tarrant County data, I'll show you the numbers here in a minute. We have over 1 million people, I think 1.08 million with 2 doses, and about 150-some thousand with the booster dose. So there's a big gap there that we need to cover, and everybody needs to get their 3rd shot. So let's get that done. They're widely available. It's not waiting lists like when they first came out. So just go anywhere. Pharmacies have it, doctor offices have it, public health has it. Utilize that opportunity and let's get that done. So now on to the vaccine update. 1.086 million totally vaccinated. The percentage count is 56% of the currently eligible 5 and older. And then I kind of updated that chart on the top right-hand corner. You'll see the 5 to 11 age group. That was the latest young children. Data is 1 week behind, obviously. So last week, when we got the file on Tuesday, it was 8,570 kids in Tarrant County. That's about 4.2% of the total of 204,000. So more work to be done. I encourage parents not to hesitate. The vaccine is safe. In fact, some of the preliminary studies about the Pfizer vaccine are showing close to 100% protection against the virus. And there's been a lot of, sort of misinformation. The young children are spared and they don't get ill, they don't get, hospitalized or sick. In this last surge that happened in the summer, mostly concentrated in the South, Texas, Florida, all of these states, but nationwide, 5 to 11 age group, 1.8, 1.9 million kids got COVID. And I think I've said this before, they don't live alone in a room of their own, right? They go to family members, grandma takes care of them. It does spread. So that's why this age group is so important to get vaccinated. And then booster updated, like I mentioned, almost 153,000 people have gotten their booster doses. Again, the gap is we've got 1.08 million people with at least 2 doses, so we need to get there with the booster dose as a community. All the updated clinic locations and times are always available on our tarrantcounty.com/vaccine finder. And a quick update on testing operations. Kind of good news. We're in a real lull on testing demand, but at the same time, it's been kind of hard to hang on to these resources because there's such a decline in demand. But we'll keep our testing finder website updated as well as tarrantcounty.com/COVID testing. There's vendor sites hosted by the county, public health sites that are doing testing, and then of course there's a lot of other community locations that are populated on that website. So if you do feel that you need testing right after the holiday, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to go get tested. That's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I do have one question for you, Benny. A few weeks ago in your update, you had mentioned, hopefully I'll get this acronym right, it's NEDS.
Yes, ma'am.
And that being a revised source for data. Will you remind me what does that apply to and then how's that going?
Yes. So let me bring that chart back up. It was this positivity rate that we switched our data source to NEDS, which is the National Electronic Disease Surveillance System. It's a CDC system, and a lot of states use that. Some states have vendor-hosted systems. Our state uses the CDC NEDS. So we got that data, and you can see that little red dot on the top where we went back and sort of revised the numbers from there, just to redraw the line, because we were starting to see some data gaps in what we were receiving from the CDC Essence platform. It smoothed out our numbers and it gave us a better picture. The other change that's happening, since you brought up NEDS, is that the state of Texas, when the pandemic started, NEDS was sort of in bad shape. It was 5 versions behind, servers were not kept up, and all those type of things. And you all heard all the problems about data hiccuping. You know, one day there's nothing, and next day there's boatloads of files. So they went and bought, I think, a Salesforce platform, and they developed Texas Health Trace that they used throughout the pandemic. And then this past legislative session, they were told by the state legislature, quit using that because we give you enough money to upgrade NEDS, which they did. Go back to that old system because that's been used statewide for all disease surveillance. So they're making a switch. As a result, there's going to be data reconciliation between local health departments who are using our own systems and state health departments. So some of that is going to be sort of horse trading about numbers on where the jurisdiction lies. So I'll keep you posted on number changes, but those are going to come on total case counts, more related to, I think, probable case counts that we post on these charts.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Vinnie? Thanks, Vinnie.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Members of the court, we can now go to the administrator's section. Items 1, 2, and 3, Ms. Camareno is going to present to the court this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kristen.
You each should have received the COVID-19 Weekly Recovery Report. So for item 1, I'll just ask that you receive and file that report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have motion and second to receive and file. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 2 has a section A and B. Today we'll only be seeking action under B. We'll ask that you receive and file the list of agenda items that appear on the November 23rd, 2021 agenda. Each of these items listed have been previously approved as part of the FRF budget. Notes on the actions related to each item are in the court communication.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
So I want to be sure I understand. We're talking about this chart now,
Yes, sir.
and the ones that are in yellow
Yes, sir.
today were on blue last week,
Or on a previous week. Yes,
or
sir.
on a previous week.
Yes, sir.
So the one, I have 2 questions, I guess. One, the space and use study, is that what is we've also talked about as being the 20-year plan?
That's correct.
And one of the things that I thought I had asked to see was the 10-year plan and where we were on that, and how we were doing on the 10-year plan before we approved the 20-year plan.
If you would like to see the 10-year plan prior to taking action on that item, I think we could make that happen.
Yeah, sure, because
Okay.
what we're doing, you will, on each one of these that you see that we're asking you to receive and file, that's not approval. You're going to take specific action.
Action is because what this does is actually allow y'all to go out and look for, I guess, a consultant or someone to.
That's correct.
That will come in and do that. So
That's correct.
Actually, on that, we do have an action item where we are recommending that you authorize us to negotiate with a firm to do this study.
So y'all already picked a firm.
We're negotiating. We've got several firms, but purchasing has, and the evaluation team has basically listed those firms in priority, how they scored. And so what we're asking for you all to do today, when we get down to that point, is to give us the opportunity to begin negotiations with that top firm.
I'm not sure where the rest of the court, I mean, I would kind of like to hear a presentation from them and then tell us exactly what they plan on doing.
I would like to be part of that.
So, okay, so that would be fine. I think this discussion here would probably be more appropriate when we get to that action item.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So let's put a hold on this 22 million today.
So, yes, sir. So this is just to receive and file the list of items that appear on the agenda today. That's the action that's being requested right now. It doesn't necessarily take action on any of.
Authorize y'all to spend any money.
Correct. When we get to, as Mr. Mania said, item 6 on the agenda, that's where the action pertaining to that item would happen.
But on all these other things, it would allow y'all to proceed forward and begin to spend money.
No, sir, not item 2.
Staff.
Action B, we're just asking you to receive and file essentially a list of the items, acknowledging that they appear on the agenda today. This is that standing item that we go through each week to be sure that court is aware of all of the FRF items on the agenda.
And I know, I mean, I'm still trying to get comfortable with this. And
Sure.
we've talked about it a lot, and y'all made a lot of the suggestions or changes that I said would make me feel more comfortable with it. But I guess I'm still trying to understand what we're saying then. So the item number 2, fiscal year 22, COVID-19, is that sheriff's office staffing?
Item number 2, I'm sorry. Under.
Well, it's the second yellow item on here today.
Okay, so each of those items, just to be sure that we're speaking the same language here, will appear individually on the agenda for action at a later date, at a later point in the agenda? So,
Right.
correct.
And so I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
How much of that, and none of that's on consent, it's all, we haven't already approved it through consent. So every one of those items are individually going to be discussed as we go through.
You know, if we have put them on consent, which we shouldn't have, then we can pull them off of consent. Our goal, you might recall that you all had asked us, in fact, Judge, I think this was your ask, for us to list every week what items that are going to be, you all are going to be asked to take action on that are funded by FRF. And so that's what this is. That's what this is.
And that's what
And further, not to put any of it on the consent agenda was
Well,
what we asked.
and you know, I'll need to go back and I've looked at the space study. It's not on consent. I will just need to go back. I don't think any of these are on consent. It was never our intent to do that.
So again, just in trying to understand the process, and I think this is exactly what we asked for. If it's orange, which there are, or whatever we call that color, then that means you're taking something that we may have approved and you're making some changes to it and you're asking us to approve those changes. And there are none of those on here today.
That's correct.
If it were blue, and there's no blue on here today, that is saying, okay, the committee has said it's okay for ARPA funds. We want y'all to understand we're about to move it from the it's okay to ARPA funds to we're ready to move forward and we need your approval to
include it in the budget.
To include it in the budget
Yes,
and
sir.
move it forward. And then the yellow, which we're looking at today, says, okay, now we're ready for you actually to approve it and tell us that we can proceed forward. And after that, I'm assuming that the yellow would come off, and in the second example where it says fiscal year 20 COVID-19 sheriff office staffing, that would come off and it would say we've already actually spent $50,916 and y'all have now approved, because there's no color associated with it, you've now approved $1,063,000 in fiscal year 2022 to be spent.
That's correct. So that item that you just referenced, we'll use that as an example, appears as item 6 under the Human Resources agenda today. And that is not on consent, so they will be coming up to the podium to discuss that further. Item 2, again, the item that we're discussing now, takes each of those items and just puts them into a list so that you see essentially what's coming on the agenda, and so that there is a list of these items each week at the publicly posted agenda. So they're.
You can also still see them in the context of the budget.
Yeah, and so that's why you're saying, we're just asking you to receive
Yes,
and
sir.
file here. In a
Yes, sir.
minute, we're fixing to go through each one of these individually.
Yes, sir.
The yellow items individually.
On the agenda, as they, yeah, that's correct.
And we found one that was on consent.
Yep.
We'll talk about that when we get to that particular item. That's the first one on the parking spaces for the mental health diversion.
Yep.
Okay, so as we're going through,
And we'll make sure next time they won't be on consent.
as we're going through, then I would hope that we will reference, make sure whoever's making the presentation dings the bell and says, okay, this is one of those items that was in yellow on your agenda.
We'll do that. We'll make sure that's.
So that we can,
So you're asking just to receive and file that?
Yes, sir.
So thank
so I have a motion to receive and file,
And a second.
and a second. They're shaking their head like I think they agree with me. So, please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, and now we'll go through.
Yes, sir. As they appear on the agenda, yes, sir. Okay. So item 3, we are requesting that the court approve the release of emergency rental assistance payments in advance of the claims addendum. We've done this previously when had 2 weeks of court canceled, and we're asking to do that again for the weeks of the days of December 30th and November 30th and December 7th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Kristen, could we have, you and I have a discussion after?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And when you have an opportunity to finish with him, would you come in? I need to talk to you about something too.
I will.
So members of the court, if we can now go to item number 4 under the administrator section. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the continuance of the first amended declaration of local disaster, which was issued by Judge Whitley on March 18, 2020, and extend this until March 1st, 2022.
I will move approval.
And I'll second for the sake of discussion.
And again, I mean, this is going on forever.
Yeah,
And
I just want to know what this allows us to do, if anything.
It's, when I've asked that question, I have been told by emergency management, by public health, by several, that this has an impact or could have an impact on funding from FEMA and HUD and some of the other deals. As long, especially given the fact that the governor still has us under a state of emergency.
Okay.
Should the governor at any point in time decide that it's time to end the state of emergency, and I can make an editorial comment that I won't make at this point in time, then I will be probably following up the next minute in suggesting that we cancel ours.
And on this particular declaration, as we extended for 90 days, or a little bit over 90 days, on any court day, the Commissioners Court has the authority to pull that emergency declaration down.
And quite honestly, and I think this is where maybe you were given the orders that the governor has put in effect, I'm not sure as the county judge that I have many orders that I could give, if any, that would affect anything, so.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we have taken item
Voted
5.
against that.
Oh, you voted against it? I'm sorry. 4-1.
Okay, so we can now go to item number 5. You might recall we removed this from the consent agenda. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an agreement between Tarrant County and Life Gift Organ Donation Center for the provision of tissue recovery services.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion second. We have an audience participation. Second. Rudolph Tovar, with CEO of Texas Procurement. Please come forward at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
something I'd like to read. Thank you for the opportunity, to address the court today. My name is Rudolph Tovar. I am the CEO of Texas Procurement, a tissue procurement organization located in River Oaks in Tarrant County. Since 2009, I have worked with the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office doctors and staff in the field of tissue recovery. After many years, I felt compelled to start my own tissue bank where I could ensure the gift of life provided by donors and their families remain the core focus of my organization. Texas Procurement is very proud and honored to offer hope to registered donors and the families whose loved ones passed away in North Central Texas. Texas Procurement provides the families the opportunity to donate the gift of life to those in need and awaiting transplant. Our mission is to save, heal, improve, and enhance lives by connecting people through tissue donation and transplantation while maintaining the highest honor and greatest respect for those who have given the gift of life. Texas Procurement became aware of the first tissue recovery and facility use agreement on the afternoon of November 18th, 2021, and have since attempted to contact the Commissioner Administration via email and in person to no avail. In the video of the Commissioner's Court on November 16, 2021, it was stated that LifeGift was specifically contacted to be provided the opportunity to be involved in this process, and to date, Texas Procurement has not received the same opportunity. Texas Procurement has been utilizing the facilities and obtaining cadaver tissue from donors that are in the custody of the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office, and for that reason, we are here to seek the same tissue recovery and facility use agreement that other tissue banks have been provided in order to continue our work at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office. Thank you.
I would like to ask the Administrator's Office to get with Mr. Tovar and his group and explore the possibility of a use agreement with them.
We will.
I had a question, just for general purposes. Mr. Tovar, why don't you come back up, please? You stated that you've been working with the Tarrant County Medical Examiner since 2009. Is that in your capacity as CEO of Texas Procurement?
No, sir. I have been working through various tissue organizations, learning as I go, gaining experience. But as far as the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office, I've worked with several, if not all, the doctors, all the deaners, all the investigators. So I'm pretty well known there. And to date, I have been CEO for a year, currently on the 19th of November.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion or any other questions? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Tidwell?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have several items we're going to ask the court to either take action or receive and file today. The first is we're seeking the annual review and approval of the Tarrant County investment policy. The only changes that were made were the related to certified providers of continuing education, attachment F, the legislation. There was no legislation passed this year in Austin that affected the act, so therefore there's not any revisions to the policy.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item, we're asking the court to approve the removal of assets from the Tarrant County Asset Management System. A couple of comments about that. First of all, the list, everything included on the list has a book value of 0. It's been fully depreciated. We think the list is accurate. However, there are some assets that have been identified that are still being used by departments, particularly the DA's office, and we will work to make certain that those are not removed from the books. But overall, we're still seeking approval to remove the majority of all of these assets for our financial records for our audit.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So do you have someplace a list that just says these are assets that have a book value but are still of zero but are still in use?
In the SAP system, we use the fixed asset module, and yes, we have a detailed basic accounting of anything that's been purchased. When you purchase something through SAP, there's the setting up, one of the things that makes it cumbersome, there's a setting up of an asset shell to create a fixed asset in SAP so that it then goes into the system and is tracked, how we do it, et cetera. And these are actually on the books, but they do need to be removed. It's part of that statute. It says the auditor shall reconcile the books and records to the inventory provided by the purchasing agent, and we do that as part of our annual audit for Deloitte. And so these will be removed off of that list of assets. There is a sum, and we're still doing some research on some additional clarification for some smaller number of assets, but we will continue to work to refine it to make sure it's accurate.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item is we're asking the court to receive and file the auditor's report related to jury services. You have the report and the jury services administration's response.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And our last item, we're asking the court to receive and file the auditor's report of the review related to financial and system controls of the Central Records Division of the County Clerk's Office, and you have their response attached.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeanette.
So the court has asked last week there was some additional information that was asked for to be able to view the courses that we were asking for as a part of the online compliance training. And so you all should have received, if you haven't, I'll send it again, but you should have received an email so that you can access or activate your own license. And once I see that your license is activated, I will give you access to both the employee library and the supervisory library, and you can view any of the courses that we're proposing.
Yeah, I did receive your email. I didn't realize until this morning, but so I did receive it. Hopefully, I'll have time to, not hopefully, I will have time to review it before. Is it this will come back in 2 weeks?
About on the 14th.
On the 14th?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
I have
Mr.
yet
Manias.
to realize it, but I hope to
And there was
realize it soon.
There was also some
Well, 'cause we get a
additional
lot of emails from
information.
you.
You have a copy of the course descriptions
I did see that.
for both libraries.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there any other?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Good morning. We do have 4 additional items for the court this morning. The first one is a change to the TO for the County Administrator's Office. This is actually a repeat of last week. We're just changing an effective date. So this is a position that was CARES funded, or I should say is CARES funded. We were seeking to change the funding source to ARPA funding and also to make the position a full-time position instead of a project position. The third change was moving it from the administrator's office to DRO. Those last two changes will happen on the effective date noted last week, December 13th. This week, we're asking to change the effective date of the funding change from CARES to ARPA from December 13th to November 13th. This would facilitate closeout of CARES funding expenses related to this position so that the auditor's office can tie up the CARES funding.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And this was one of those that was on item 2 in our section.
Okay, so then what you're telling me is that SO does not stand for Sheriff's Office.
We
It
have
does.
several of them that are on that particular item, Judge.
Oh, you're talking about just, I'm talking, okay, I see what you're saying.
That one's still coming.
Okay. So which one is this item that we're talking about this time?
This is G3.
Which one?
G3. And what this is...
No, I know it, but what is it, which one is it on this yellow sheet? Or this, which yellow line is it on this sheet?
It was from last week. So we changed the effective date, and it said that was the reason why we're taking action today.
Okay. So it's not one of the yellow items today.
Judge, I'm going to have to get a magnifying glass.
No, it's,
It's not on the...
Administrative staffing needs.
We'll figure this out.
We're learning this thing out. I understand that.
I think we're trying to meet your expectations. This is something that was on item number 2 because we were going to take action on it, and it dealt with funding. And the reason we were moving it back is because we need to close the books out on CARES.
Okay.
That's what this is.
Okay.
Kristen says it's number 2 on the list
Yeah,
that she mentioned earlier.
it is, and we already pointed that out.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item is not related to CARES funding or ARPA funding. That's the only one.
thank you.
So this is a change to the TO for juvenile services. The request is to reclassify a senior casework supervisor for the JJAEP. This is a grade 74 position. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this since it was sort of a unique request. This is a state-funded position. This is not a general fund position. We, back in December of 2017, we actually did the reverse of this action. So we downgraded this from a 75 deputy assistant director to the grade 74 senior casework supervisor. The intent at that point was to have another deputy assistant director oversee the JJAP and make sure that the duties were covered by that other position. Currently, that just really isn't panning out. So there's a high detention population, as you know, in juvenile services. So they need somebody on site at JJAP to oversee the high-level planning and really development duties for that function. So we're requesting that the reclassification be reversed and now reclassified back up to the grade 75 deputy assistant director level. The fiscal impact to that state fund would be approximately $6,600.
But it is state funding.
Correct, state funding.
Move approval.
Okay, will you say that last part again? You said it is state funded?
The position is funded by the state,
Okay.
so it's not
Okay.
general fund.
Okay. At second?
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item is an ARPA-related item. So this is a change to the table of organization for public health. They're seeking to modify the funding source of a project position. It's serving as a medical reserve corps recruiter. The position is currently funded by CARES, and they're seeking ARPA funding for this position for 1 year. The annual fiscal impact to ARPA would be approximately $49,000.
So this is under number 2, the last one, that's medical reserve for recruiter, on the spreadsheet. Okay, got it. Did anyone make a motion? Move for approval?
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Our final item is a change to the TO for the Sheriff's Office. This is also an ARPA-related request. The request is to reclassify, really just retitle a grade 53 deputy sheriff position, effective November 24th. Back in August, you approved this grade 53 deputy sheriff position to work in the training academy, doing recruitment of new employees, background checks, etc. They are seeking to change this from a grade 53 deputy sheriff to a grade 53 detention corporal. That means no fiscal impact. It's the same grade. The request is being put forth because detention corporals as confinement professionals are actually a little bit more qualified to supervise and train new hires in the confinement area than a deputy sheriff who doesn't have a jailer's license but has a peace officer license. So there's no cost effect associated with this action.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and seconds. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Your Honor, before we go forward, if you'd like to, when we talked about the ARPA-related funding and the FRF funding, we had one item that was on consent. I'd just like to explain it to you and make sure that you all are okay with it. It's on facilities management. This is a parking lease agreement between Tarrant County and Casada Catholic High School and the Catholic Diocese for parking spaces which are located at 1400 Hemphill Street. What this is a parking agreement that would allow us to initially have 8 additional parking spaces, and then after, I believe after December, on January 1st of 22, we're going to move to 16 spaces, and this is simply to provide parking for staff as it relates to the Mental Health Diversion Center. So that's what that is. If you'd like for us to pull it off, we will, but if you're satisfied with that, we've already made the approval.
And but is that under 2? If I'm looking at my yellow one, it's under 1? No, you keep referring back to that page. I want to know where it is on this yellow line.
I think it's this one right there.
I think it's in this one right here. But.
First off, we're going to need to get bigger sheets. So it's
Part of the Mental Health Diversion Center.
Right. That's what I figured it was.
Okay.
And so it's part of that $3,165,000.
For the diversion center.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, since you brought up parking, Commissioner Fickus and I were down here on Sunday for the Parade of Lights, and we noticed that in the Calhoun garage, we were charging $20 for people to park for the Parade of Lights. Where'd that authorization come from? Who collected the money, and where did it go?
We were made aware of that this morning, and Facilities is looking into it, and we should have a report by this afternoon sometime.
Okay. Sounds to me like we had an entrepreneur.
That's what it sounds like to me.
That may get to.
They need to make all the equipment work.
Okay, thank you.
Did we vote? We didn't have anything. We didn't vote, or we vote?
No, there was a consensus that you didn't want to pull that off of consent.
I know it, but, okay, so we had already approved it in consent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's right. Just trying to make sure we go forward with that. Come on down, purchasing.
Good afternoon. We have 9 items for your consideration.
Morning.
Oh, morning. Sorry. It's usually noon when I get here.
I understand that, and that's why I want to be sure we recognize the fact that you're here early.
All right, we have 9 items for your consideration. The first item is an award recommendation for RFP number 2021-086, SAP Risk Management Claim System for Budget and Risk Management and for Information Technology, awarding to LSI Consulting in the amount of $168,580. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval.
Move approval.
Second.
And would you raise your mic, Melissa? Good.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The second item is also an award recommendation regarding bid number 2022-005. This is Newt Patterson Culvert Replacement for Transportation Services, awarding to West Texas Rebar Placers in the amount of $177,127.50. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval, acceptance of the payment, performance, and maintenance bonds.
Joyfully, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Keith and my Road and Bridge team and Melissa and her team for getting this moved forward. I was out visiting this project last week, or we're doing road repaving. So it's going to make a huge difference for our residents out there. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The third item is regarding bid number 2022-107. This is our annual contract for purchase of service awards for human resources, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors listed in the court communique per unit price.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The fourth item is also an award recommendation regarding bid number 2022-020, annual contract for intrusion fire alarm and safety monitoring services for facilities management, awarding to Interface Security Systems per unit price, hourly labor rates, and markup for parts.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And the fifth item is an award recommendation for bid number 2022-025, purchase of interactive touch displays for information technology, awarding to Galaxy Next Generation in the amount of $26,235.
And so this is one that is also ARPA funded. If you look on your spreadsheet, it is the fourth yellow line on there. It's entitled COVID-19 Mobile Displays for Judiciary.
It's under number 1 and then line item number 4. Okay.
So what is the mobile display?
What's that?
What is the mobile display? I was thinking that was probably...
Those are displays within the courtroom, and where that we can do remote magistration, remote hearings. It also allows, in some instances, where that you can use it as a display for any type of evidence and things such as that.
Okay. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I think I made a motion, but I was making a motion, but I don't think we had a second.
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion still passes unanimously.
The sixth item is a request to approve a 60-day extension for RFP number 2016-120. This is our annual contract for Metropolitan Ethernet Services for Information Technology with AT&T Corporation. We need this extension to allow the continuation of services until we get the new contract awarded.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Why have we gotten to the point to where we need an extension to keep the contract going?
It's a very long contract. It has 5 parts to it, and we've only made it through 3 parts of the 5. And so we just figured we would ask for this extension just in case we run over the December, I believe the end date is December 12th.
Okay.
So we just wanted to not interrupt any service until we get the rest of the contract done.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The 7th item is a request to approve a contract termination of RFP number 2020-198 for contract management software for the District Attorney's Office and Information Technology with Syncentilex. After attempts to remediate the issues with the vendor, it was decided it was in the best interest of the county to terminate this contract.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. How long has this contract been in effect? So we just had problems with them from the get-go, and we've not been able to resolve?
Yeah, we've been working on it. No resolution.
Okay. Any further discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The 8th item is, excuse me, the 8th item is regarding RFQ number 2021-143, consulting services for space study plan for facilities management. We're requesting approval to conduct negotiations with the firms listed in the court communique.
So were you here when we discussed
Yes.
this earlier?
We're going to want to hold this.
So we're going to hold this at this point in time and
okay.
ask them for a presentation so the court members will have an opportunity to understand exactly. And then also, please furnish us with, or whoever would like, everybody, a copy of our 10-year plan, and so we can kind of see how this is going to change, or well, I guess we don't know how it's going to change yet because we haven't done the 20, but
Well, it'd be good to look at the 10-year plan and see exactly
what
where
we've
we are.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The 9th item was pulled. Okay, so our last item is a request to reject all responses regarding RFQ number 2022-004 for audiovisual professional services countywide and rebid with revised specifications. After reviewing the responses, it became evident that we needed to revise the specifications.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Wait a minute. Commissioner Fickus, did you wish to?
When did we get to the last one that's on the regular?
We're there.
agenda? Oh, we're there? Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about item 19. Labor contract, part-time, paying, couldn't find any, looks like you can't hire anybody at $15.50, but you're willing to pay $40
Up to.
$60 an hour?
That was up to 40. The contract does allow for an increase. And so I asked that we put this back on the agenda because the way the spreadsheet looked when we first awarded the contract, it looked like it was only at $15 an hour. So the elections office has been, they were having issues in this last election hiring. So they did increase the rate. So I asked that it be put on the agenda to reflect that.
So did they pay the people they normally pay 15, did they pay them 40 or 60?
No, not that I'm aware of, and I don't think they're here to answer that question. But the contract reads that they can pay up to 40.
I thought,
Go ahead.
does it not still require court action? Like Hyder would still have to come and say that we're paying at this rate though? Or unless I'm thinking of another set of election workers, because I feel like he did that recently and it wasn't at this higher amount. He would have done that leading up to the November election, or the election earlier this month.
I guess we have pulled this off the agenda. We've already voted on this.
We have, and what we may want to do is we may want to reconsider and pull that off the agenda. And
I would like to see that and have a better understanding of why it's written that way, that you're going to pay somebody that you normally paid $15, you're going to pay them $40 to $60.
It states here in the background, the hourly pay rate of $15.50, which is a bill rate of $21.08, and the maximum overtime pay rate of $23.25, and the bill rate is $31.62.
well, I'll tell you what, let's do. Commissioner, if you would move to reconsider, and if that receives a second, then I would say we will pull that item back up and then maybe hold that until the December 14th meeting and ask Mr. Garcia to be here and discuss it at that time.
Okay, I would make that motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to bring item 10I-19 back up for consideration.
Okay.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we have it back up for consideration, and I hear that we're not going to conduct any action on this today, but that we would like for it to be re-agendized for the December 14th meeting and ask Mr. Garcia to be here to discuss the item with us at that time. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, appointments for today.
I have one.
I have one as well.
Why don't you go ahead and, well, I got my statement.
Okay.
I'd like to reappoint Rebecca Barksdale to the City of Euless TERS number 4 Midtown Board for the new term beginning January 1st, 2022.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And then I would like to appoint Mr. Fernando Benavides to Arlington TERS number 7. This appointment needs to be made in order for Arlington to move forward with their process for establishing the TERS, which I will be partnering with the City of Arlington and Councilwoman Boxall and Hunter to host a community meeting to talk about the proposed TERS on December 15th at 6 p.m. I meant to mention that earlier, so I'm trying to get it all in right now. So December 15th at 6 p.m. at the Dan Diaper Career Tech Center. So I move for that appointment.
Second.
A motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, I don't know how everybody is coming along with the appointments for the Mental Health Advisory Committee. I think each one of y'all are responsible for an appointment from one of your police departments within your precinct. And then we are responsible for 2 commissioners' court members and appointing the chair. And I believe that is all that comes from us. Everything else comes from
That's correct.
other bodies at that point in time. So if you're If you're ready to make the appointments to...
Judge, I
Yes.
would move that we, from the Commissioners Court, that we appoint Commissioner Brooks and Judge Whitley, and that we appoint Judge Whitley as the chair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So the option is, for the chair, is for it to be you or for it to be, was it Susan? Okay.
Right.
So it can either be one of the two members of the Commissioners Court or the Director of MHML.
Okay.
Was it, I'm sorry.
Did I have that right?
Facilities. Go ahead and tell them who the chairs are. I've forgotten on that.
Sure. So, good morning. So it can be either, as GK mentioned, it can be either the two members of the Commissioner Court or the Executive Director of the operator. In this case, it's MHMR for the chair of the committee.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
So I did have a question on, for the other appointments. I know that there was some back and forth in us solidifying what the advisory committee would be. I don't know that I saw something that said it was the final version. So I just want to make sure that I understand what's the final version before I have one person that's interested, but before I make it formal, I want to make sure that
We had sent that out, but we'll resend it
Okay,
out.
I
And what
missed
we'll
it.
do, we'll bring that back and receive and file it, so it'll be in the court documents.
Okay. And then also is just clarity on law enforcement executive. Are we talking about a chief or someone who's a deputy chief or assistant chief or whatever? Because that's also going to make a difference as to who would be appointed.
We'll get that information to you, okay?
Great, thank you.
I do have an appointment, I think. I have spoken to the city manager with the city of North Richland Hills, and he has indicated that their chief of police, Jimmy Perdue, would be more than happy to serve on the diversion center board. And I have a call in to the chief. Haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
His boss said he'd do it. We'll see if that happens.
So do you want to wait till?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll wait.
All right, then we'll wait till the 14th, and hopefully, if by chance you come up with a name between now and then, that might allow the committee to be able to move forward with a preliminary meeting, because by the 14th, we're getting real close to the end of the year. And I know that Susan has every intent upon having the soft opening by the end of the year, and at least have our, potentially be open for our first visitor to hit the door by the end of the year, from that perspective, so.
Well, so as long as the information that I've requested, if I get that by today, now given the holiday, I'm sure that I can have an answer by early next week and communicate that.
Yeah, we'll get
Okay.
that to you. We'll get to all the court members today.
And then I think it's going to be critical that we get with the other agencies who have appointment, and just ask them to, if they could unofficially or officially make those appointments so that we could potentially have a meeting before our next court meeting.
Okay.
And submit those appointments to whom?
Let's submit them to GK, and then we can begin moving toward having a meeting.
Okay.
Any other appointments at this time? Okay, court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Devin, do you?
No, thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Any other briefing items, Mr. Mangus?
Your Honor, no. Do you have one additional audience participation?
I have one that was comments only. And so that's from Mr. Brewster. So we will not read that into the bill.
So at this point, we do not have anything else at this time.
We do not have anything else at this time, and so I will recess our open meeting to proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section. Having returned from closed session, we'll now address the following matters.
Members of the court, if we can go to the administrator section, item 9A6. We're first going to ask that the court make a motion to reconsider that particular item, which was a consent item.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now we're asking that the Commissioners Court approve Amendment Number 1 to the City of River Oaks Tax Increment Financing Zone Number 1 Participation Agreement, providing for modification of the definition of the zone and the tax increment base year. That is a corrected document that we have made, and we're asking you to approve that.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, I believe that's all we have at this time.
Okay, I was supposed to have reappointed Clara Wallace Holmes to the Historical Commission as a at-large member, and I will move that appointment. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Is there any further business?
Not at this time.
There being none, then happy Thanksgiving. We're
Happy
closing
Thanksgiving
today.
to all.
David Chappell.